All right, we got the man here, Coach Cannon, Coach Anthony Cannon, NFL linebacker vet. Spent some time in the CFL and been my coach for a while. So great to have you on. When I first had the idea of starting interviews, you were the first name that popped to mind because I know there's a lot that the athletes, the coaches, that everyone can learn from you, hear about your experience, and it'll really just be good to get you talking and people could take some notes and see what they can take away from this. So for the start, I'll just get you to give a little intro. Now, searching you up a bit more, I didn't even know this before, but I saw that at Tulane you had 100 tackles in each of your 4 seasons, which was crazy. It's just crazy to think about. And then a bit later down the line, you were drafted to Detroit in 2006. As you can see, repping the jersey right now. Let's go
Yeah.
Lions.
Go Lions, baby.
So, if you're able to just give a little breakdown of kind of how you got started in football, your history. I know you're big on your high school, lots of great guys came out of there. Then you could kind of just talk through the timeline of how you got into coaching after your career as well.
Yeah, man, for sure. Thanks. First off, I want to say thanks for having me on. E Money. Uh, you're one of my guys, man. Who from back in the day, man. He's always been, one of the guys who I knew was going to be successful, man. No matter what you did, just because how you approached everything you did, man. So, hats off to
Appreciate
you in that regard, man. But yeah, man. I started out back in, I was born in Florida, so a Florida boy. But I moved to Georgia as a young kid, around 6, 7 years old, and actually at that time I was a baseball player, so I played baseball throughout my whole life. I was a pitcher, man, so just always having the ball in my hand and being in control of the game was what I liked about that aspect because baseball, very boring game to watch, I would say, but
it. Yeah.
to play it, man, it was a blast, and it wasn't until I was about I'd say 13 years old when I finally picked up football, which is why I'm a big advocate of kids, kind of not playing the game too early, just because I know that for me myself personally it worked out. So everyone's different, but I'm a big advocate
Mhm.
for that reason. But coming into football from a baseball background, obviously coaches first thing they're going to position wise they're going to put you at is a quarterback. So started out my football career playing quarterback, uh, and eventually moved over to the defensive side of the ball. Um, and to your point, I went to Stevenson High School in Atlanta, Georgia. Uh, we have a lot of players that have come out of that high school are that made it to the NFL, played in the CFL, and are currently playing in the NFL right now. I give this funny stat about I'm wearing this NFC North team jersey right now, but there's a connection with my high school and the NFC North specifically right now. And when I tell people this, it kind of blows their mind. But
All right.
myself and Kelvin Shepard, who's the linebacker coach there now, he went to my high school. He was 2 years behind me as a linebacker. So as you know, I was a senior and he was a sophomore. You know how that hierarchy goes, and from a mentorship standpoint. But he was one of the next players, I guess, in line. Went to LSU and was drafted as well in the NFL. And he's a coach right now for the Detroit Lions. You have Montez Sweat, who was traded from Washington, who now plays for the Chicago Bears. He was also uh, a player at my high school about maybe 4 years after me. Funny story about him, he was actually played receiver in the beginning of his career at high school. So that's how we'll touch on that a little bit later from a developmental standpoint, kind of
Right.
why I do things the way I do them. So he's in Chicago. Then you have DJ Wanham. He was a defensive end in Minnesota, but he got injured 2 weeks ago, kind of out for the year. He had surgery, but he was one of their primetime pass rushers. And he's also, like I said, that's NFC North connection. And then I take it over to um, Green Bay Packers, right? Preston Smith, defensive end for the Green Bay Packers, as well. Stevenson High School product. And Yeah, so that's actually a funny story, man, about the NFC North and the connection between my high school still to this day. So I'm very proud to, always talk about my high school, as you know. That's why you bring it up because it's a big part of who I am
Mhm.
in my football career, my journey. So I attribute a lot to that part of my life because I know how if it's done properly, it'll set you up further down the road, which is kind of the way in the mindset that I have when I train my guys and when I trained you guys back in the day as well. Um, so that career at Stevenson obviously set me up to be able to go and attain a D1 scholarship. Back in the day when I was coming out, recruiting was a bit different. Still had some of the same principles and things like that, but with social media and everything nowadays, there's a lot more
Yeah.
access to kids from a coach's standpoint, and vice versa for coaches, sorry, players, and be able to access to coaches. So we had to do it a different way. And myself personally, coming out of high school, I didn't have a lot of D1 offers. Actually, I only had one. And
All it took.
that's all it takes, man. And I tell kids all the time, everyone wants, well, I got 20 offers, and you want to post all these offers.
With the stars.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, man. Like, you want to go to the best situation that is right for you.
Hmm.
And I was blessed with that opportunity to be able to, go to a school that really wanted me and not a school that I wanted to go to, in a sense, right? Because when you do that, you're just a number and
Yeah.
you're fighting an uphill battle, as you know. So, um, funny story is when I did go to my Tulane visit and I committed in New Orleans, it was a great visit. Um, I I wish every high school player could go on a college football visit at a D1 university just to experience it. Official visit. It's very life changing sometimes, but it's very eye opening to kind of give you a feel of what it's like to play at the next level and finally be out of your parents' houses, things like that. So it's definitely an experience that I want athletes to be able to have an opportunity. But yeah, coming out in college, man, when I did commit to Tulane University, funny story was when I got back from my visit, University of Georgia was there at the school, and they offered me once I got back from my visit, and I respectfully declined the offer. And some people look at it and say, well, why would you do that? Well, they didn't want me when
Yeah, they only want you after.
yeah, they didn't want me when I was available. They only wanted me when they knew I wasn't there anymore for them to make a decision, right? So that in itself is a red flag for anyone out there. If you're in that situation, go with your instinct and go with, where your heart is and where you feel like
Mhm.
coaches want you there. Because
It's like what you always say too. If you're good, they'll find you. So if you're putting the right things on tape, you got the right numbers, wherever you're at, you're gonna get noticed by where you're trying to go.
absolutely, man, they will find you. And I always said, man, like I've never seen anyone work hard, man, and not make it. I've seen guys cut corners or, you know, take a day off here, take a day off there, and that eventually adds up. It may not hurt you in that moment, but in the fourth quarter in the championship game, it may come up, right? And I've seen it happen several times, man. Done it myself.
Yeah.
I'm not, not being a hypocrite. Speaking from experience.
Yeah, any corners cut it catches up with you. Do you want to talk about? So we started on Tulane, and do you want to just continue a little bit more, heading into the league, preparing for the draft, all that?
Yeah, man. So I was a younger player, right? So I was always my birthday's New Year's Eve. So
Yeah,
most guys,
17.
yeah, man. So most guys would turn 18 like in the summer, right? Which is or before, still the same
Mm-hmm.
year, but I was just the last day of the year. So I went to college my freshman year as a true freshman. I was 17 years old, um, and at that age, you're not even an 18-year-old. You're not even considered an adult, right?
Little baby.
Yeah, I was a baby out there, man. But you know, and this is why I am the way I am today, and I will always play a kid at a young age. If you're 14 and you can play varsity, I'm playing you on varsity. And the reason why is because why would I hold you back if you're capable of playing at that level? If your goal is to play at the highest level, you're going to be playing against guys who you're watching on TV right now, possibly. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's the reality of it. Is you know if you if you're a high school player right now and you say you're a senior, in 4 years there's a chance you'll be in the NFL or the CFL. Well, I know for sure that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, those guys, they will still be playing in 4 years, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, and at our training, we'd mix the groups all the time, and it makes sense looking back because even me being at Queens for 6 years, there's guys who, if I was in grade 12, they would have been in grade 7 or 8. But you end up all competing against each other anyways, so it makes sense just to get that all the reps and competition levels and mix it earlier on, be
Exactly,
competitive
man.
with
I don't, I say age group 14 and up, 13 and up. If you have it inside of you to compete and that desire, that's all I need from you. We'll figure out the rest, but just your desire, your want to, and your attitude towards competing and saying, "Hey, I know this may not go as I want it to go, but at least I'll learn something and I'll get better from it." That's the
Mhm.
ultimate goal, right? So, um, I had that mentality at 17. I came in as a true freshman, and uh, I actually went to college soon as I graduated high school. I We drove down. I knew a couple guys that were already there from the year before. We drove down and we just started working out, doing summer workouts with the team in June. So I graduated in May. In June, at 17 years old, I went to New Orleans. 8 hours away from home, and it was an experience that I'm grateful for, man, because that propelled me to be able to start as a true freshman at 17 years old. That was mind blowing. I It was one of those moments where you're like, you put the work in and you're
Yeah.
reaping the benefits of it, but you're kind of like waking up every day. You're like, is this real? Um, and some people obviously they frowned upon it who were already on the team because they had their guys and they were a group already, but it didn't take long for them to see that, there was a reason why I was there in that position. And I'm so grateful for my coach at the time. His name was Eric Schumann. He was a defensive coordinator, and a lot of people on the team would joke and call me the coach's son all the time because I was so young. And he just took me under his wing, man, and taught me how to be a Division I football player. And he held me to a very high standard at a very young age. And obviously, you have to if you trust me with being the starting will linebacker of your defense, right? Um,
Hmm.
but here's the funny story about that. I have a lot of stories, man. So I'm sure you have coaches in college who have sons and kids that are just always around the facility, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty young because we get young coaching staff. They're like 3, 4 or
Right.
younger.
Okay, so my coach at the time, he was a little older. He was maybe 40s. So his son was 13, maybe 12 at the time. Uh, and fast forward till today, and it's funny because I text him now. I have a couple guys going down to Georgia. I have a couple guys at Raybon Gap right now, but I have a couple going down to some visits at University of Georgia. His son is now the defensive coordinator and linebacker at University of Georgia. So Glenn Schumann. If you look at anyone watching this, Glenn Schumann, that's my guy out there at UGA. He was my defensive coordinator's son in college. That was always there in the locker room with us and always in the film room. He was just around football all the time. So it doesn't surprise me that he is at
Awesome.
University of Georgia as a defensive coordinator. So before University of Georgia, he was at Alabama. He was a linebacker coach there. So that pedigree is you know the players that's come out of there from a linebacker standpoint at Alabama and Georgia. So for his dad to be my linebacker coach, you see that there's a lineage there, man, and that's what kind of propelled me into my career that you talked about at Tulane. I had 100 tackles, over 100 tackles every year, and yeah, man, when you're doing it, you don't realize it, right? But then when you look back, you're like, wow, that was a lot of work. You know what I mean, man? But and then you ask yourself, how do you get those numbers? Man, effort. I'm talking about undeniable effort. And it's a cliche. People say, "Oh, coaches, run to the ball, run to the ball."
It's facts though.
It is facts.
You're not running. Yeah, you're not going to be in the opportunities. And how you are able to run all the time is from putting in work in the off season, training, lifting. It's all about the effort.
Honestly, man, like people think you train in the off season to get faster. Game speed is only relative to your fitness level. You understand what I'm saying? You can run a 4.3 all day. In the fourth quarter, if you're tired, you're gonna run a 4.6. But if I'm in shape, my 4.6 is gonna be better than your 4.6 because you're not operating at your optimum level. You're a 4.3 guy. You're in my wheelhouse now. Come on down this 4.6 world. Let me show you what it's like.
Especially on defense or as a DB where they can just sub in a new receiver. You could get run off and fly. They sub in someone else. You got to be conditioned, ready to
Listen,
just go.
listen. What you just said. We used to go, 7-on-7. We were, we kind of, we were at the forefront. I would say. I'm going to be respectful. We were at the forefront back in the day, and even back before you played with us. It was 2013. Okay, 2012. This is when we started
The
IDFFL.
OG days.
Yeah, it's when we started IDFFL. It's when we had Royce Michi was the young one of the young guys on our team. Now he's a
Yeah.
5-year CFL vet. That's how long I've been doing this thing, man. So we would go to IMG, and Cam Newton had his team down there. South Florida Express, Florida Fire. They're still teams to this day. But the South Florida Express, Florida Fire teams, they're from Miami. Okay, and to your point, this is what they would do. They would have probably 10 receivers. And all 10 of them were about 4.3, 4.4 guys. That's Miami, Florida, bro. You know what time it is.
Yeah.
They would line
Birds.
up doubles, right? It was 7-on-7, so it's 5 receivers, 5 eligibles. They would line up doubles and the running back in the backfield. They would send all receivers on a go route. The next play, they would bring on 4 new receivers. Go routes. Next shoot, go routes. You couldn't stop it. To your point, you had to have DBs in shape to cover those go routes every play. And then every now and then, instead of them running a go route, they would just run an under, which is literally a go route.
Full speed.
Yeah, under is a go route. You just flip the field. Just turn the field this way, and now you run a go route across the field. You couldn't stop it.
Yeah. And on defense, you don't want to be subbing in as much because you got to communicate throughout the game and just make
Man,
adjustments. It's
you can
not like
play.
offense where you can
You can play
run a
whatever you
route.
want, man. You can play cover 3. Don't matter. Cover 2, man. They're gonna annihilate it, bro. So it's like sometimes like it, that kind of 7-on-7 is good to a certain extent, right? But there's ways you can exploit the game to where you can't in tackle football because there's so many other elements. But I think every game that's not tackle football has its own kind of perks. You have flag, you have 7-on-7, you have touch, you have tackle. I've coached all of it, and all of them are different. You have to approach them differently from a coaching standpoint. But I definitely respect it from that regard, man. But yeah, I mean, it was, you know, college was definitely an eye-opening experience for me, man, and I'm grateful for the body of work that I was able to put in. It was enough for me to be, uh, considered one of the top players in my position coming out my senior year. Uh, I was an academic All-American, so I made the dean's list in college as well. Uh,
There we
so
go.
so I wasn't just an athlete, man. I really took school serious. Uh,
Hmm.
Being at Tulane University, which they they give it the nickname the Harvard of the South. It's a private school down there, and to be able to go to that school and be in that city of New Orleans for 4 or 5 years, kind of really you know opened my eyes up into a lot of different experiences and being around different cultures and people. So it kind of molded me to be the person who I am today. Particularly living here in Canada right now, or having been here in Canada the last 12 years. It was, very similar to that from a population standpoint. But I really feel like, at school and having that opportunity to get drafted, even after Hurricane Katrina being my senior year, that was kind of set me back a little bit when it comes to draft status, and scouts being able to come out and see games and whatnot. But I was still blessed to have an opportunity to get my name called on draft day. Um, well, I'm wearing my jersey, man. I got my Detroit Lions.
There we go.
They doing pretty well this year. Tomorrow's a big game, so I I'm proud that they took a chance on me and saw, uh, you know, my body of work and felt like I could come in and help their organization.
Hmm.
And that was, obviously the pinnacle of your career, man. When you make it to that level, uh, and it's when you get to that level, you really see that football is at that level is a job. It's not a game. Um, it's legit a job, and there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort into every aspect of it: the off season, training camp, uh, travel to games, the cooks, the cleaners, everybody's involved, man. When you win a game, everybody in the building wins the game. It's crazy. But when you lose, everybody loses.
Everybody loses.
I mean, if you're coming after a loss, man, the janitors, the cook, everybody, the mood is different. When you win, it's like sunshine and rainbows, man. But I'm pretty sure you know that as well at Queens. You guys, that's a very prestigious university. You guys have won a lot and continue to win and have a standard of winning. And I'm pretty sure you can probably say the same yourself. When you guys win or lose around there, you can really feel it in the atmosphere and in the athletic facility and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's when you're in an organization where everyone's so supportive, everybody feels like it's part of the family, a part of the team, and it's not just the players on the field, it's not just the coaches, but it's the athletic department, strength and conditioning, like every single person along the way, it's involved in it. So it feels really great when you win, but unfortunately, when you lose, everybody's kind of feels the same way there.
No,
So when you're all pushing for that same goal, you're all in it together.
absolutely, man.
So, what do you have upcoming in terms of? Because I know you want to talk about this, and it's a great opportunity for lots of people to develop in football. And just in terms of NFL flag, can you give a little intro into what's coming next and what are going to be kind of your next moves in terms of football and NFL flag? Because there's
Yeah,
probably lots of kids watching this who want to get involved.
yeah,
So, give them a little intro there.
yeah, man. So obviously, your NFL flag is a big part of development for football players right now. Originally, I was here in Canada, the Under Armour flag football brand that everyone sees. I was a part of that, being a co-founder. Then kind of transitioned to move on to NFL flag from a brand standpoint and offer that in alliance to obviously me being a former NFL player and wanting to spread that throughout the community and
Hmm.
just the opportunity for these players to play competitive football. And I touched on it a bit earlier, but also protect their brains and their bodies, still get the
Right.
developmental aspects of the game, but not start playing in padded football too early. No knock on it for the
You
guys
see
that.
kids looking like bobbleheads running around and
Yeah,
hitting each other with
yeah,
their feet.
man.
There's
It's
no
it's
way to
it's
help it.
and it's like I said, no knock to the parents who do it. I personally, I feel like there's a way to develop these kids uh, in the game from a skill standpoint and not put them at the risk of injury, which is why I'm such an advocate for flag football. Uh, and you're talking to someone who played at at a high level, and and I develop players at a high level, and I'm saying that you can play flag football and develop your skill set. And here's one of the things that I kind of point out a lot to parents is sometimes when you play tackle football at an early age, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, when you're one of the bigger, kind of more stout guys on the team, you're automatically going to be put on the offensive or defensive line. Period.
Hmm.
Hands down. So that's your development. That's all you're going to do is going to kick slide on at practice or sit there and put your hand in the dirt and pretend like you're pass rushing if you're being taught properly. If not, then obviously that's just what you're doing.
Right.
Well, what I've seen over time is from a developmental standpoint, you have a kid who's like I would say heavier set. Over time, when they get 13, 14, 15, they get taller, they slim out, but they don't have any skills developed yet because they've been playing the big man position their whole football career in tackle football.
Yeah, they haven't moved the same way or learned about the game
Yeah,
as they could have.
they're kind of behind. But if you play flag football, everybody can run, everybody can throw, everyone can catch. There's no, you're going to develop all those skills. So even if you're and you play tackle football and you kind of sub in and play flag just as a developmental component, supplemental, you're at least having fun and developing those other skills that you wouldn't develop when you're playing on your tackle team,
Right.
right? So that's the component of flag that I love, and that's what I want to bring, uh, continue to bring to the kids of the community here in Canada as well in the States where I'll be there in Buffalo area, which will
Hmm.
provide different opportunities for kids to be able to do international competition, showcases, camps, tournaments, and things like that. But NFL Flag Elite specifically, the league that I'm running will be more of a uh, travel ball type atmosphere to where this region there may be a couple teams that register in this region and Mississauga or Peel region may play some games in the Hamilton area for one weekend. They have a home and away type of feel to it, which is what the kids do when they play tackle football. They you know
Yeah, it's exciting
It
coming
is.
up.
It's exciting, right? It's a different type of because most flag football, if you look at it right now, and it just is what it is. This kind of like house league type thing where the kids just play at one location, and it's obviously fun and inclusive and all of that, which NFL Flag Elite is as well. But just
Yeah.
structure from a league standpoint, if there's three age groups in Mississauga that has two or three teams, well, we will probably in over the course of a season, you'll be playing a home and away type of schedule where you'll go to, Hamilton or you may go to North York and play
Yeah.
teams, from there and those kids in those regions, which ultimately as you grow older, that's what you want to do anyway. At an elite level, it's going to happen. You want to play across province or, cross state or internationally to really develop and see where you're at, right?
Right, because when you're only in one area, the competition level is only so good. It's the same reason why when you're really young, it's you got high school, high school, high school on one league, but then it's the city level, so it's better because you play province. And
Mm-hmm.
then on top of that, it's you play other provinces, and the pretty simple. The bigger the area, the more opportunity for talented kids to be. So that's good coming up. That sounds exciting with the home and away schedule because then it's going to give kids a real developmental opportunity, which you're pretty big on compared to, like you said, kind of just house league being in one area and not experiencing the same level of competition as you could be exposed to doing it this way.
For sure, man. It's all about that, man. You want to have exposure, man, and experience, and also compete at a high level.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Nothing like back in the day when we get on the field, those tournaments, even training, we'd compete all the time. But that's the thing, and you'd say when we're working out that we don't even realize how good we're getting until we go and compete, and it'd be different teams. We play them once, and we have our however long of training, we play them again, and we all realize like, oh shit, we all got it a lot better in this time. And you only know that when you actually go out there and compete.
Yeah, it's. But listen, isn't that a great feeling though? To put all that work in, and while you're putting in the work, you hate it, and you're like, man, coach is crazy. Coach is crazy. And then you go compete, and you're like, I like coach being crazy.
We love hate relationship sometimes when you're putting in all the hard
I
work.
love coach
Just
being
thinking being in
crazy.
the matrix, pushing the sled there and back, mixing it with the sprints, the long time, short time, all the barbell complex we did.
Yeah, it's listen. It hasn't changed. Anybody that if you meet any of my players right now that that are training with me, they're doing the same thing, man. Because guess what? I did it. I had somebody, obviously along the way you tweak it and times
Yeah,
change, right? But the foundation of it is the same.
that formula.
But for you, I remember, we talked about it at the K8 camp afterwards. When you were saying how when you went to Queens, your first year when you were working out, you know,
Yeah, so when you go somewhere new and when you go from training with Coach Cam with the NFL program, and then you go and there's a lot of good stuff, but when you're on the rookie program, because they have to make sure none of the new guys coming in get hurt, so it's toned down, it's easier, and I was like, yo, this is way too easy because they don't know what we were just working on into the rookie program,
yeah,
and then later on when you get up in programs, it's all good and
right, of course,
our coaches there are great. They do a good job mixing like the science with sports and
mhm,
teaching you the why behind everything.
yep,
But especially at the start when you go from training with you to the rookie program to it's like adapting, getting used to working out
yeah,
because they want to make sure nobody comes in and hurts himself.
of course,
But yeah, that was definitely the big difference from putting in all the work and then it's all right. I'm gonna just have to do this on my own time. Do the all the shit we do.
yeah, man. No, you definitely haven't, and I see it in your training now. I watch your videos, Pick Six Athletics, and you yourself. I just smile, man. I'm like, man, this is like a you look at your pedigree and your coaching tree, and I see what you do, and it's like, wow, that's you know that just makes me smile, man, because you a lot of the stuff that you talk about and things in a foundational standpoint that you teach, I know that we kind of help kind of mold and shape that in you.
Oh, so much of it. So much of what I've learned was from you guys, with you, Damon, IDFFL, and then also coaches at Queens, a couple coaches along the way. But it's funny because when I make posts and I'm like, okay, I've learned this, but it's not like I've maybe a couple of things like I've noticed by myself with how to do different steps, but most of it, pretty much 90% of everything, it's just taking what I've learned from you or from a coach wherever and just putting it back out there. And that's just how it works. You coach, you develop, you teach other people. And yeah, I'm really grateful for everything I've learned from you over the years and the training and football wise. And when we do chalk talk, breaking down the film, it's just all about learning as much as you can and then knowing it so well that you could teach to other people. And that's one thing I've noticed after starting Pick Six Athletics is I can't just say, okay, yeah, I got it, I got it. I actually have to make sure I know things really well before I go out there and talk about it or try to teach someone else about it.
Yes, man, that's the main component of coaching. I tell anyone, if you want to coach, you have to know how to teach. Your ability to teach is a direct correlation to your ability to coach. Right? If you can't teach it, there's no way your players will
No
understand.
way.
Impossible. So, I know a lot of guys who know a lot. Trust me, like they have a lot in their brain, but they can't coach it. You know what I mean?
I come out the same way.
Yeah, it just don't come out. It's in your brain, you know it, but it just doesn't come out, and you can't teach it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't relate. Right? You also have to be, relatable. The coach, some players and coaches, players want to relate to the coach at some point. In some type of way. You don't have to be a former player to be relatable, right? I look at what's his name, Mike McDaniel from Dolphins.
Yeah.
Uh, Prime example. Some people hate him.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? They think he's, he does too much or this and that. But I think he's relatable. And obviously his players respect him. They've been a playoff team. I don't know if they made
Yeah.
it twice, but he's
They're
obviously
playing crazy,
yeah,
and you
man.
see the clips of him on Hard Knocks, and he's doing a proper job. Even though he mixes in lots of humor with this stuff, you could see when he gets serious. It's proper.
For sure, man. And then if you know his backstory, man, you really, you'll have a newfound respect for what he went
Mhm.
through in his career and, his, addiction and things like that. So, you have to respect someone who's able to be, transparent, but also, a success story where sometimes in life, things go up and down, man. But as long as you have support around you and you continue to work hard every day for what you want, things will get better.
All right, so a big part about our training, whenever we'd be in the gym, in the field, putting in work, would be the mentality behind it. And you'd always say as a coach, you're not just coaching us to develop physically, you're teaching us mentally as well, how to work hard, how to really, like you said before, not be taking days off or skipping workouts and just be fully dedicated to it. So for the athletes and the coaches watching, could you just talk a little bit? I know you'd be very strict too and get on us what you have to. So could you just talk a little bit about the mentality in terms of training and how you go about building up athletes so they have the right mentality and you don't let them get away with, you know, half-assing a drill or not doing it properly, but you're always really hard because you care and you want to see them develop. Just talk a bit about the mentality behind that.
Yeah, so that, like I said, that mentality that I bring to my coaching and I try to instill in the players stem from my upbringing in the environment that I was in as a player in high school and throughout college as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's passed down from generation to generation. So obviously coaches instilled it in me. So I feel like that mentality that I have stems from the coaches that were in my life that I learned from all those different levels. You kind of compile that into one, and it's a doctrine, I guess you want to say, that I live by, and I want my players to understand. Which, like yourself, you have that in you right now. Um, it's I can't.
It's hard to put into words because
Yeah,
you just
it's hard to
when
put.
you're in it, when you know you're fully committed,
Hmm.
when you're willing to just go that extra yards and just really work as hard as you possibly can, get drained.
It's it's
It's
it's
different
more of a.
compared you
I
can
would say
get
you
used
have
to.
to be very consistent and persistent as a coach to
Mm,
instill that in your players. You can't venture off and you can't cut corners. So if one day you're going to be hard and stern on your players, you have to be consistent. You
right.
know what I mean? Or not. I wouldn't say hard and stern, but if you want to hold them to a certain level and have certain
There.
expectations for those players, you have to be consistent with that. Because if you're not, then eventually your players they're going to lose trust in you, right? So,
Mhm.
um, Damon always would tell me, Damon Allen, one of my good buddies, zebras zebras don't change their stripes, right?
Oh,
So it's like if you're going to be a zebra, be that zebra, right? But don't venture off of that because eventually, if you start letting things slide, then that's going to be what's instilled in your players. They're going to start to. That's going to be what they follow in their own
mhm.
actions. They're going to start. Well, I'm not going to. It's okay. No, we'll go next time, right? But if
Yeah,
you
it's a slippery slope there. When you let something slide, you never know where it could lead to. And if you hold the standards high some days, but not other days, it's when the coach isn't there, how are the players going to act, right? So it
exactly,
always has to be the same standard. Make sure you got leaders on the team holding it up and being consistent with it. I like it.
exactly, and that's why I never worried about like you guys or you or anyone, any of my players, because I know I always held you guys at a high standard. So when you go to school, wherever you may be in the league, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, you're gonna be all right as long as you got the standards, the right mentality. So, kind of related on this topic, but you have, I was going on your Instagram, and one of the old posts was, what you want to ignite in others must first burn inside of you. And this is kind of a fun question, but I've seen you in person do the one hand snatch on a plate, which is really impressive. Hopping
Don't
into
try
our
that at
working
home.
sets.
Don't try that at
Don't yeah, don't try it at home. I've seen you hop into our working sets with no warm up and just squat 4 plates, and then also always be down to hop in and get some routes and reps with us. So, what would you say to coaches about showing, being true to it, and kind of doing it yourself, and not just trying to ignite a spark
yeah.
without
Uh,
letting it burn inside you?
I'm gonna say that everybody's not able. So, you know, you. you're not a
Not every coach has to go.
yeah, that I'm not saying you got to be out there, running a 4-3 and running routes like Justin Jefferson to be a good coach, but I do that because back to the point where I was talking about being relatable. Um, it's one thing for me to sit there and like just bark at the players and tell them over and over and over, hey, this is how I want you to do it. But kids learn or players will learn three different ways, in my opinion. You rep it, you watch it, and you write it, right?
Hmm.
So in a sense, sometimes you repping it is you actually doing the rep. The watching it part, we like to have video so we can kind of show it. That way you can watch it. But if you don't have video, then how else can you watch it? Through a demonstration.
Right.
Okay. And I learned that in the NFL. I had some coaches because in the NFL you have a lot of former players that you may not know it. They're position coaches. Wells Welker is the wide receiver coach for Miami Dolphins, right? So you have a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's like you always said you have to be getting your mental reps, and you'd be taking a knee on the sideline, whatever, watching other guys do it. Like, oh, okay, this is how to do it. I'm gonna go do that, and never not doing nothing, or you
Oh
and Atlanta's just late in drills. We'd either be walking through it or making sure we're focused
yeah,
in,
man.
getting every rep possible.
Time is important, man. So I always tried to soak in everything I could from everyone, even from the kickers. Like I would watch them kick off and do field goals and punts, and to this day, like I can punt a ball 50 yards if I wanted to because I've watched
Yeah, I
punters.
didn't know that.
Yeah, man. Like it's I pride myself on being able to the more you can do is what I always
Yeah,
learn.
always a student of the game.
Yeah.
Who the more you can always learn something from anyone, whether they're doing it right or wrong. See how to do it the proper way, or kind of what not to do there.
Yep. Absolutely, man.
Okay, one question that I wanted to add, and I remember you said this, and it's really important. I've learned that moving up and playing at the college level is importance of practicing smart, because some guys always want to go. I always want to go really hard in practice, but at a certain level, when you get to the pros, as you can attest, is that you have to learn how to control your tempo in practice, and you can't be getting your teammates hurt pretty much. So I think you had a story about that once where I don't remember if it was one of the receivers get hurt, or could you just talk a little bit about that topic and give them some wisdom there?
Yeah. Friendly fire is what we call it, man. Friendly fire. And I'll say this because there may be some players out there who have played with me. I'm sorry. I apologize because I have been on the not the receiving end. Well, I have, but I've also been one to fly around and you know f some stuff up every now and then is why I call it fly around and f stuff up, but keep it G rated. But it's
Yeah.
you have to be mindful, especially at the higher up in level you go, of your teammates, and you got to keep the main thing, which is game day, and being
Hmm.
healthy on game day. But there's a right and a wrong way to do something, do everything, and I feel like if you're always practicing at that level, you learn how to practice at that level. Um, but the one thing I will say is everybody has to be going the same tempo. So if it's walkthrough or half speed, everybody has to be half speed. If it's full speed,
Right.
everybody has to know, and it has to be full speed because injuries and things happen when someone didn't know the tempo, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa,
Somebody
hey, hold on,
take a hit.
because we would always ask. This was the number one question when we would come to practice or before we would start any drill. What's the tempo? Right? You need
Yeah.
clarification. And because you have to ask the opposing side because you're working together. Hey guys, what's the tempo? We teach tempo. Okay, cool. Right? But if we ask what's the tempo? Oh, we live, baby. All right, let's go. Right? So you're able to kind of tone it down or turn it up as long as you're able to communicate, right? That's the main thing is you gotta be able to communicate and everyone has to be on the same page.
Hmm. Okay, that's really good. Yeah, I've noticed that too with in terms of we call it whiz when you just tap the hip,
Yeah.
or thud where you wrap them up, or
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
When you're not on the same page, that's where guys get hurt because they're
Mhm.
not expecting contact
Mhm.
or to move. Then you go hit them, and
Yeah.
then you hit me. It's the tempo of it.
I mean, my bad, dog. I had a
Yeah.
long day. Had a long day, man. I had to get that one out, bro.
Yeah, that's what we play, right? You just gotta get it out sometime.
My bad, dog.
You good? You good? Help him up. So our coach always says, "Hey, don't hit him, but if you do, make sure you help him up."
Exactly.
All right, we got just a few minutes left, so I'm gonna go through all the Q&As we got in that story I made,
All right.
and try to be pretty quick with each of them.
Yeah.
Kind of just like a quick answer, and help give people the questions, the answers to the questions they had.
Gotcha.
In terms of, so you were talking, the first one was the one I had, but you were talking about when we were talking after the event, running with Calvin and just kind of the experience in the NFL with the off-season training, how you were with the DB receiver group as a linebacker.
Yeah.
Can you just go talk maybe a minute just about always trying to get that step up in competition and trying to outwork everyone on your team and
Yeah.
just being around the best possible?
Yeah. I just challenge yourself, man. Always challenge yourself for more. The more you can do, I always think that if I'm at this level, there's another level higher than me. Someone else is at that level. And to your point, when I was training during the off season, we had different groups: the wide receiver, DB group, linebackers, running backs, and then O line, D line. I purposely ran with the wide receivers and DBs so I could challenge myself and also show the guys that were in the organization that I was better than the other linebackers and running backs in my group.
Right.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, so you gotta always compete, and like you said, there's always different levels to it. So once you reach a certain, you earn the right, or your time to go train with the next group, and
Yeah,
being
man.
around the right
It was,
guys
it was,
to
it,
do
it was
well.
awesome, man. And then that running with the receivers also showed me how fast Calvin was. Holy shit. Whoa.
What was it like running next to him? You guys racing?
No, it wasn't no race. It definitely wasn't no race. I was running with him, and then I was running behind him. That's how it went. We started out together, and then after about
And you're a fast guy too. I've seen the track videos.
yeah, man, I was legit 4'4", man, but Calvin's 4'3" at 245 pounds, man. This dude with hang clean, 285 pounds, 315 pounds, like it was nothing.
I know he's built different.
Yes, sir. He's from Georgia, though.
That's crazy.
So it don't surprise me from Georgia, Makes sense.
The best state, right?
That makes sense.
All right, so we got just a few left here. Quickly, can you talk about what's the in-season kind of schedule for lifting as an NFL athlete?
Yeah, man, maintenance, right? So we would lift 3 days a week. Obviously, the day after the game, if it wasn't a See You Wednesday moment, we would have a rundown or a flush workout, which I feel like the most important workout for any athlete, any player is that day after the game. You got to kind of get the
Right.
blood flow back going and iron all those kinks out. But yeah, I mean we would lift. We would have 2 main days. Essentially, we would have an upper body, lower body day, and then that third day would be kind of a pre-game prep workout where you're just getting your fast twitch and your everything
Yeah,
going.
prime, ready to
You're
go.
getting primed up, and then we would have Muscle Beach. So if we would have a game on Sunday, we would we would it'll be Saturday before we get on the plane. You know what time it is, or if you had a home game, we would have a gym in the locker room where we would probably around maybe 3 hours for the game get the little pump
Get
going.
that pump going.
Yeah, man, you gotta have the cut off sleeves looking good, the veins popping out for the TV.
Get the try 2% going,
Right,
looking big for
man.
the film.
All beach workout stuff, man.
That's awesome. All right, final few questions here. If you could just answer in kind of a few words, we'll go through the list and then we'll be done in just a minute.
Yeah.
So we talked about this. So, biggest mistakes you see DBs make. You talk about when you're impressed, or if they're in pedal and not matching the tempo. What would you say? Just the biggest mistakes you see defensive backs.
Oh, well, you were at the camp with me, and you saw I stood there and watched for about 10 minutes, and I tried my best, Eric, to not come over there and bother anyone. I just couldn't. I had to, bro. And biggest mistake I see is guys, especially in the high school level, they get up there in a press man scenario and don't understand that you're there to disrupt the timing of the route.
Hmm.
So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see is players get into a press man scenario and they aren't physical or they aren't willing to disrupt the timing of the route. They just let them get a free release. Well,
Right.
it's a track meet at that point, so good luck, right? But
And then if they're off and pedaling, just getting out of there too quick, and
yeah, okay. And so the flip side of that, when you're off playing at, particularly at 5 yards, so a 5 yard catch technique and playing off at 8 is two totally different techniques. If you're at
right.
5, I teach you. You know, I said don't go over the cliff by yourself, meaning
Hmm.
I can't back up until I let this guy kind of, in a sense, take a charge and he goes with me, right? Then I attach. That's catch technique, right? You got to have certain footwork for that. But playing off man at 8, you know how we I should teach you guys the shuffle, shuffle, skip, skip, hip, hip technique.
Yeah, yeah. Skip,
Uh,
skip, hip, hip.
that's for you to tempo because some people when they're off at 8, they like to backpedal out of there right away. Well, you're not going to cover a lot of routes if you're off at 8 backpedaling right away.
Hmm.
So though that's one of the ones I would say um, I would teach.
Yeah, or you just can get out of the zone.
Absolutely.
You got to match the tempo and make sure if you can't just give it to him, you got to make him earn it. Like you always said, don't cover grass.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, great interview today. Thank you for all your time. We're definitely going to have to get a part 2 to get through some more of these questions. But again, from the NFL, from coaching, a lot to learn from you. Really appreciate your time, and this will definitely help lots of kids and the coaches on their journeys.
No, I thank you for having me on, and I hope you and your followers could gain something from today's interview. Um, I definitely enjoyed it. The hour that we've spent on here, man, is it's always good, man, to reconnect with you as a former player of mine. And I'm looking forward to part 2 whenever you have time. Let's do it again.
All right, do it. Okay, appreciate you, Coach.